I was diagnosed with a chemical imbalance, manic depression.
They diagnosed me with having ADD.
He told me I had conduct disorder.
ADHD.
Mild depression.
Major depression.
Manic depressive.
Borderline personality disorder.
Compulsive
Social
disorder.
anxiety.
Depression and schizophrenia.
ADHD.
Sleep disorder. Identity problem disorder.
But all of these so-called diseases are just made up. They're just fabricated. They're fictions of psychiatry imagination.
What would psychiatrists do without their labels? They couldn't pretend to be real doctors anymore, you know? Neither could psychologists, you know? Diagnosing, what a godlike thing to do. Making diagnoses, and here's your treatment, a pill. Because so far they're not proving that any so-called mental illnesses exist. These are labels, and that's all they are.
Mas não se pode ter poder ou influência sem credibilidade. Então a psiquiatria fabrica a sua.
It's based on a grab bag of checklists for disorders that are published in a book called the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. There are no statistics in this book, by the way. That just makes it sound more scientific.
They create this cluster of disease, and they get together and they vote. Is this a disease? All in favor, say aye.
The American Psychiatric Association is the publisher and owner and wealthy owner of DSM. They've made a great deal of money on DSM.
Desde a primeira edição do DSM, o número de desordens mentais que foram votadas para serem incluídas no Manual de Diagnóstico de Psiquiatria cresceu para 374. E com cada nova desordem, os psiquiatras criam outra forma de defraudar o público.
If you have 27 ways to bill in the DSM, that's 27 ways to bill. If you have 300, that's 300 ways to bill. So you can pretty much find anyone walking on the street that could fit into a DSM somehow.
When you build insurance companies, you can't say the word. You've got to send a number. And they have numbers for the most ridiculous things. You know, like arguing with your mother or peeing in the bed.
Adolescent rebellion disorder is an official psychiatric diagnosis. Arithmetic learning disorder is an official psychiatric diagnosis. General anxiety disorder is a recent diagnosis.
The psychiatric industry takes advantage of that. They say, wow, we can get these things categorized, make it look scientific, so let's label everything. Now we have a label for it. We put a coding. If you've ever seen a medical insurance form, everything has a code.
In DSM, it just looks like sort of some magical numbers. Of course, what we're talking about is reimbursement for mental health treatment as an illness.
The more types of codings, the more types of illnesses you can come up with, the more claims can be paid, and the more reasons for treatment, and the more reasons for revenue for the psychiatric establishment, for the hospitals, and of course, the pharmaceutical companies.
Por incrível que pareça, enquanto apresentam o DSM ao mundo como científico, os psiquiatras admitem livremente a sua absoluta falta de base científica.
We have no diagnostic reliable markers for almost any illness there is in the DSM.
What we're testing for in psychiatry, it's hard to say because there's nothing specifically.
But as far as a test that's clinically useful, basically we're not there yet.
We don't have any laboratory tests that we can use to determine whether somebody does or doesn't have a mental illness.
There are no good biological tests for detecting mental illness.
There is no test, there's no biopsy you can do.
There is no chemical test right now.
There are no specific tests to confirm the diagnosis or show the improvement, like any blood tests or any x-rays or anything like that.
Oh, in my practice I don't do any tests. I just speak with people and listen to them, and then I make a decision in what kind of illness.
Estes diagnósticos variam tanto como os psiquiatras que os fazem. Nestas cenas de câmara escondida, uma pessoa visitou vários psiquiatras queixando-se dos mesmos sintomas.
I'm extremely unorganized, and I didn't used to be. It's caused problems in the family. It's caused problems getting, I'm self-employed.
You've got ADD, ADHD, and you're depressed, and your depression is bipolar depressed.
You have a brain chemistry disorder, and it's probably genetic.
You have a lot of the symptoms of depression.
So it seems like it is a mixed picture. What that means is like we got some depressive symptoms and some, high symptoms.
If you're bipolar, I'll need to give you a mood stabilizer. We don't know. I kind of doubt it.
It's considered low-grade bipolar.
You are more of the ADD than ADHD. And as far as medications for depression, because I would recommend that you start a medication, which are Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil, Celexa. Usually Focalin XR is pretty good.
They'll give you some Lexapro in the morning and some trazodone at night.
Lamictal is a better medication for that. It works on your depression also.
But the treatment for any bipolar cycling is the same. The lithium,
Remeron is another one.
trazodone,
Tegretol,
Depakote, Wellbutrin,
Lexapro,
Lamictal,
Equitroid,
Depakote,
lithium,
Ambien.
You may need an antidepressant also with your Lamictal.
We don't know if I give you a medication if it is going to work or not.
To a certain degree, it's trial and error.
You never know if it's the right drug.
How many people have I cured? Well, there are no real cures right now in psychiatry.
I have cured none of my patients.
We're always challenged by our lack of knowledge.
I mean, in fact, we don't know what the causes of mental illness are.
Most mental illnesses, we do not know the cause.
Of course, it would be nice to know exact reasons of disorders, but maybe in the future.
I'm the Director of Research at the American Psychiatric Association. We don't know the etiology of really any of the mental disorders at the present time.
DSM-5 is coming out. It's grown to 10 times its original size, and it labels everybody. I could find 5 diagnoses that would fit you or anybody else.
Compare isto com os métodos de investigação da patologia, uma ciência que descobre doenças reais usando um vasto conjunto de testes de diagnóstico precisos.
We do millions of laboratory tests as well as the structural examination and the microscopic examination. It's a whole series of applied scientific procedures. In the case of psychiatry, there isn't any laboratory tool that can precisely identify a psychiatric disease and allow it to be classified.
It's not as if there's some study of tissue or some study of the body or some study of matter. These are all categories which are made up. They're simply made up. They don't exist in nature. They're decided upon by psychiatrists and voted on.
Os psiquiatras não são os únicos que beneficiam com o DSM. Sempre que seja encontrado um diagnóstico psiquiátrico, encontrar-se-á uma droga psiquiátrica.
The pharmaceutical corporations now contribute enormous sums of money for the education of psychiatric residents and for the support of research by their professors, so that psychiatry today has become in America, has become very largely learning of which drug to use with which disease or disorder.
This to me is completely unethical, untenable, unacceptable for this to occur. The web of money is all over the place. It has compromised psychiatry, and now it's compromising psychology, and worst of all, it's compromising the patients.
Em 2006, estudo revelou que 56% de todos os psiquiatras que decidiam que desordens incluir no próximo DSM têm laços financeiros com pelo menos uma companhia farmacêutica. Hoje vemos as consequências. Uma inundação de drogas, cada uma dirigida a uma desordem inventada, que está apoiada por diagnóstico arbitrário no DSM.
The fact that it is couched in the language of science, without necessarily having any of the scientific data or underpinnings to justify it, is as threatening as anything we've seen today.
E quais são as táticas mais recentes e dispendiosas da psiquiatria para enganar o público imitando a medicina legítima? Os scans cerebrais.
We can scan all the brains we want to. The fact that we see changes in different people's brains, changes in functioning, doesn't mean that we've discovered anything that has its origin in the brain. It just means that we're seeing changes but it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the brain.
They have no reliable measures about precise blood flow patterns for any of the psychiatric disorders using any of the scans.
It's marketing. This is marketing. This is not science. This is incredibly effective marketing. It has nothing to do with science.
Psiquiatras e psicólogos usam o DSM para etiquetar 450 milhões de pessoas no mundo inteiro como doentes mentais. Um total igual à população da França, Itália, Alemanha, Canadá, Austrália, Reino Unido e Rússia combinadas. A venda de drogas psiquiátricas superou os 80 mil milhões de dólares anuais e, a nível mundial, os subsídios para esses pacientes dão à psiquiatria uma receita bruta superior a 250 mil milhões de dólares anuais. E uma grande parte deste dinheiro provém do diagnóstico e das drogas que são receitadas aos mais confiados e vulneráveis.